step one, though, to turn that dial from I'm uncomfortable with you to conversation.
Okay, it's sort of an incessant focus on you. They focus on you. They ask you a lot of questions. They listen to you. They're totally perfect, polite, and they meet every expectation that you subtly and unconsciously project. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for a husband and you want children and you want to have a house, and this relationship was based on the fact that I did at the time want a house on the beach. I wanted a bathroom that had a full ceiling-to-floor window that I could watch the sunrise in, and I wanted a white clod bath, and I wanted a beautiful neighborhood, and I wanted a husband and children, and I wanted to stay in Florida.
Okay, it's a very specific picture.
I'm not the only one who feels this way.
I'm sure. That sounds lovely. Sign me up for that. Do you express something like that? Does he say, what do you love the most? See, the problem is this, and I agree with this is how it happens. The way if you're legitimately interested in somebody, those are the kind of things you would do too. You would ask those questions. You would make them feel that way. You would want to fulfill their needs.
Not on a first date. Not on a first meeting over the first glass of wine.
You might, because some women are like, I had such a good time. He was so interested in me. He asked me about me. He didn't talk about him. And a lot of times that isn't necessarily a sinister play either. We have heard as men over and over to death, she wants to tell you about herself. She wants you to seem interested. She wants to become all of the things. So the guy who are listening to this like, wait, now I'm not supposed to do that?
No, you're supposed to do that, but you're not supposed to be a financial predator.
I get it, but I'm talking about from the women's point of view. How do you know?
Well, a lot of men have bought that book, and they've studied it and written the test and passed.
Right.
And gotten A's. So they know how to seduce a woman, but you don't need to seduce her bank account. And that's where the line sort of,
Right. How does it get to how long does it take to get... Because I hear these stories of women online. The guy's like, oh, man, I broke my iPhone and I need $600. It starts with a small thing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I want to be able to talk to you, this damn phone. Something that's like, the only reason I need this or your money is because I need to be with you. Or in
a newspaper article, I was once asked, what are the most important things in a relationship? And one of the important items was... lend a man $50 and see how soon he pays it back. The best test is to give what you can afford to see whether they're in the same kind of headspace, where they're going to say, I respect money, I respect your money, and I respect that it belongs to you and I have to give it back.
Right. So that's a pretty good test.
$50.
I get it. That's a good test. I like that. He shouldn't want, if he wants $50, it's probably a problem too. Because there's an amount of money that $50 is like, oh, well, maybe he just didn't have it on him, and it's too small to think about. And then if he wants, $50,000, clearly you're going to ask some more questions than share.
Unless you cross the line and you enter that region of business relationship where you start to commingle and merge your business ambitions.
Well, but what if you're in a relationship? And you believed you were in a relationship. And if his intent was sincere and he legitimately loved you, those aren't necessarily bad things to do. The problem is that he wasn't honest about his intent. So it's not even necessarily the actions that you mingled things or you exchanged money in some way. The intent is the problem. And that could take years to discover in somebody.
Well, if you look at somebody's civil and criminal background, in French we call it a primitif, where you see their past experience and what they have done or what has been done to them through the corporate, financial, and criminal records that they have. You can see a lot about someone, and the problem with me is that I did do a background check, but I did it only in the state of Florida. There are 52 states.
Oh, it's not one database?
No, not at the time in 2011. So I didn't know about North Carolina and West Virginia and all the other states where he had he was a bad actor.
So how long into the relationship did you do this?
Oh, right away.
And okay, so you saw, so Florida was clean.
Florida was,
had you asked him
parking tickets. Florida was 1 or 2 bounce checks. Now, I'm not going to tell you don't ever go out with anybody who's bounced a check.
Right. he might have done that 20 years prior.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, and women too, men with women, a lot of divorce causes financial problems. Business things cause financial problems. I don't think you should judge somebody on their financial history.
Not in this climate either. Not in this financial climate.
Right. But what's happening more? You're convincing yourself that it's nothing, or he's convincing you that it's nothing?
That's the best question I've heard in years. There's something called cognitive dissonance, where something happens where you cross that line where you suddenly don't believe yourself and you have no confidence in your perception of things anymore. And you start to be drowning in their perception and the way they perceive what's going on in the relationship. And if you don't have any financial activity between you, other than, you pay for dinner sometimes, he pays for dinner sometimes, you start to have fear that is overwhelming, but the fear of losing that person is greater than the fear of losing the money. So you're almost an accomplice in that you're not thinking straight. It's called coerced debt. It's called coercion, where they coerce you into believing what they're saying. So my situation was that I was told that, and I did go visit properties, and I have my real estate agent here with me today. And we went to several properties with his agent, the selling agent.
Right.
And so they were real. You could see the property. The two real estate agents were there. Why wouldn't you have confidence? I had full confidence. So he was able to orchestrate that.
Real elements added into a dream.
Yeah, there's
scenario.
Real people with financial liability insurance around you, so you trust them.
So it's like it's taking a fantasy or a dream that he's painting and putting together some tangible things that you can feel and touch and see.
Yeah.
Ugh. So how long into this, back to the karaoke incident to I'm in a relationship with this person. How quickly did that happen?
That's a really good question. You're full of good questions.
Well, that's what we do around here.
The very first week.
And I'm trying to seem interested. I don't want to go buy a house with you. But, okay.
Why not?
Your realtor's right there.
So the very first week, and I think everybody would agree, it's too soon to say I love you. I've never met anyone like you. I think I want to marry you. I think I could spend the rest of my life with you. And the most important word there is could. And that's true. I could spend the rest of my life with you. Could. But may I, and should I, and will I? Those are the variations on the theme of have I said everything you want to hear yet? Because I need your money, and I want it, and I'm going to get it. Whether you give it to me or I take it, whether you agree with the fact that I've taken it or not, it's going to be mine.
Okay. So to me, well, first of all, let me take a quick break because we need money and we got to pay the bills around here. Let me take a quick break and we will be back right after this. And we are back, and we are talking with Brigitte Knowles, the author of The One That Got Away, and we're talking about at best, complicated relationship, and at worst, oh my God. There's got to be an easier way for these guys to do that, or these women who do that. That seems like you are 24, like go get a job, I would think. Like 24/7, the emotional effort and the shell game and the con going on to try, and we've seen this in movies and we've seen this happens. It seems like, are they attracted to the game of it, or is it really about the sex and money and it's both space things?
Well, you have a recipe book and you have a recipe and you have tons of recipes. So these situations involve a recipe for danger. A lot of people have never had danger in their lives. They've never had excitement. They've never felt their blood pounding. And I'm not talking about high blood pressure.
Right.
I'm talking about excitement. So
it's a thrill of the chase.
Yeah. So the most important phrase would be see the danger, recognize it, and respect it. Respect the danger. Because if you respect the danger and if you're able to talk to people that you trust or your therapist or your lawyer, as in my case, and tell the truth about what's going on, they'll give you advice. But there are so many men and women who don't follow that advice. It's not because they don't believe that it's in their best interest. It's because they're still in the cognitive bias stage where they need to believe that they didn't make a mistake. And if that mistake at that point is worth $10,000, nobody tells them, but it could be worth $1 million if you take a year or two.
Right.
And your credit rating is gone and your cash is gone, and suddenly you're in debt for a lot of properties and credit cards, and you've made enemies because you're not able to pay those back. So even though he created them in your name, which is called coerced credit,
right,
you're still going to be responsible for them. So the house of cards falls down right on top of you. You're under it. You're under all the cards in the relationship.
Now, you must have had friends in a social circle and family, and did you hide what was going on because deep down you were embarrassed, or were you like, hey, do you think this is a problem here?
That's a really big scenario when you include friends and family who you trust, but not everybody has friends and family that they trust. A lot of people are in dysfunctional families.
Yeah, I'm
Relationships have gone dysfunctional after the election, and suddenly it's, you're a Democrat, I never want to speak to you again, get out of my house, don't come back.
Right.
So all of a sudden, if you are not in the same kind of political space, that's the first thing that happens. You can't go to the parts of your family that are going to say, I told you that would happen. I knew you were going to be in trouble one day the way you are. Right. So it's avoiding the judgment of the family. It's avoiding the disrespectful comments made by people who wanted all along in a way to undermine your success because they were jealous. So you say, I'm not going to tell anybody what's happening to me because I don't want to tell them how much danger I'm in. And the danger can often be extended to your family and friends. There are threats involved, especially if you're dealing with a known criminal with a criminal past. Not everybody who does this is a criminal yet.
Right.
So,
or they haven't gotten caught yet.
No, and it's tax-free money. Believe it or not, the FBI, the marshals, deputies, everyone I spoke to, and at that point legal aid, refused me because they said, if you're stupid enough to give your money to a man, then we can't help you. And at the time I said, I will build a legal aid clinic right next door to yours, and I will bring in every woman and man who's ever had money stolen from them like this, because it's a crime.
Right. Well, the con, for lack of a better word, is the word I love you. And legally, pretty much, it's like that is the fraud, is saying I love you. You can't prove that. That's a hard thing to prove in court. That's a weird thing. And he lied to me by telling you love me. That's the problem. Is because feelings have no place in the law a lot of times. And so it's like, I love you and I gave him money. The law looks at that as like, well, you is a partnership of some kind.
Well, that's been, in the last 10 years, a lot has changed about that, because there's no shame in being a victim of a financial predator. That's the first thing you have to know. And the second thing you have to know is there are a lot of people out there just like you. So you're in a sorority of sisters and brothers who've gone through what they have. And I want to give hope to people out there that you can get back to a better you than what you were before, and it will never happen again. And God strike me with lightning if it does, right? But you have to integrate all the recovery and the benefits of the recovery, because you become a smarter, stronger, more honest person to yourself. You're more honest to yourself, and that's so important.
This had never happened to you before, and it hasn't happened to you since.
Never happened.
With men, it tends to happen a lot because they believe, and I'm sure this happens to women too, so it couldn't happen again. This one must love me, or they expressed their past to the person, and then the new person knew how to work around that.
Well, what kind of love are you looking for? Are you looking for somebody who will meet your needs, or are you looking for someone who will enjoy your lifestyle with you because they don't need you and you don't need them? When you look at two people who are together, nobody can take them apart. Nobody can split them up if they really want to be together.
Right.
And if they don't want to be together, it's so easy to do. So if you're with somebody that you feel really loves you, try to understand what kind of love it is, because love is not always good love. It's not always constructive. It's not always coming from a healthy person. So what's the source of that love? Is that person independent financially? Do they respect themselves? Do they respect money?
Right. Well, a lot of people would rather lose money than get their heart broken, because they're always like, it's especially people who have money, they're like, well, I'll just make more money. And it's when somebody didn't necessarily have a lot of money, and then they were left broken for years. And I was talking to somebody about that a couple weeks ago, where she's basically paying off his tax liens from way back, and the government was like, you're responsible, made you responsible, and she's carrying this around for long after the relationship is gone.